Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sunu Heas. You can call me Sunu. In this occasion, I will retell about the short story. The title is The Cheerful Granny. Let's start the story. Once upon a time, there lived a very cheerful old woman, and though she didn't have much to cheer her up about, but knew that life was one journey through both smiles and sadness. In the story, the woman approached one of the people named Perisila, and then the old woman entered her house and helped her cook food. When winter came, the old woman went into the woods to find firewood for herself to keep her warm. As she went to look for the wood in the forest, she gleefully found a dish inside, which was a larger pot lying on the ground. The old woman waited and looked around, hoping the owner would come, but nobody was seen. The old woman thought the pot had been discarded. She said, "One man's trash is a treasure to another," and she was planning on taking it to the flower pot in her window. It turned out that upon opening it was an abundance of gold. The old woman was elated and thought she was going to be rich. The old woman tried to lift the pot, but it was too heavy for her. After much doubt, there was no better way than to drag him around like a go-kart. On the road, she thought of someone else's happiness in sharing her gold with her neighbors and planning to build a house with a tea chair in front of the fireplace like a queen. After a long walk, she felt exhausted and turned to look at her treasure. He turned the golden pot into a silver pot. His hopes of a mansion were gone, but he was still happy that it was easier to store silver and draw little attention, and he could still sit in the chair by the fireplace over tea. The old woman continued on her way home, thinking about what she would do and feeling as rich as before. And he felt exhausted again. He stopped, looked around and checked if his treasure was safe, but it turned out he saw nothing but a hunk of gold and silver. The same went on every time the old woman got tired. She stopped and looked at the contents of her pot. Each time she looked at the contents of the pot, constantly changing, becoming small stone, and the big stone. The old woman thought that during the trip she was just imagining and dreaming, but each spot changing she kept thinking about what useful things she could get from it, and still felt good. She thought gold and silver would make him dizzy, until it arrived at the front of the house. The pot turned into a white cloud and then appeared feet and hands and face with fangs sticking out of red eyes and eyebrows rising up and turning into a cotton monster. The old woman was amazed and thought she was a funny animal. The cotton monster was astonished and asked, "What kind of person are you? I've changed something precious to you, gold to silver, silver to iron, iron to stone, until I show you my own being. You'll be happy and think I'm adorable." The old lady said, "Of course you like cute." The cotton master didn't stay in there long enough and left. That old hug turned into a butterfly. The old woman just shrugged her shoulders and went inside the house. And when he came in the house, He was surprised because there was a rock in his house, and what surprised him was that it turned into a chair. Not only did it turn out that the pot of gold, the silver and the iron were all in his house, around his happy singing. But as we know, the old woman had not become greedy. She distributed the gold and silver to her neighbors. Everyone was happy, including the old woman. The story teaches about not only a satisfaction but learning to see something from another perspective so that we won't feel sadness. Okay, that's all for now. I hope you find a moral values from the story. Thank you and see you guys.